It's a challenge when others are openly negative about my faith. It's really easy to fall into old habits, to feel negative and frustrated about a family I'm working with, rather than loving them as my neighbours and have a deep understanding. It's hard to do this consistently.
In your walk with God, in your discipleship, you're going to face challenges. What is different is that you're facing these challenges with Jesus, just making sure that you're continually not getting comfortable with where you're at, but you're actually growing in your faith. People can bring about opposition to what you believe, so it's how you actually deal with certain challenges in love, and not just reacting how you want to react, but reacting how you should react.
Change has been difficult for me. There's certain things in my life that I didn't think I'd be prepared to let go of. But it's how things just filter away as you change, your priorities change. And these things you would have found impossible to give up years ago just aren't important to you now.
I mean, on that one, the first I find is the expectation that because I know Jesus and I love Jesus and he loves me, that everything's going to be easier. And it's not. And a lot like that, and I think that's a fantasy maybe that I'm just going to put to bed right there. You know, the difficulties of life, illnesses of life, you know, people die for no reason, there's unanswered prayer, all that kind of stuff still happens, even though Jesus loves you and you love Jesus and you've asked for things to happen. But actually knowing the promise that Jesus will be with you forever in those situations and that he's always walking with you reminds me of that Footsteps poem, and I find that really helpful and really comforting in such situations. But I will say, you know, I do find that quite a difficult place to go through, and I've had quite a few personal experiences where I found that quite challenging. The other area is this sort of expectation of instant change, a bit like our culture really. And again, that's not something that I think really happens that much. I mean, it can happen sometimes, you know, somebody can be massively converted and that's great news and suddenly their whole lifestyle can be changed. But actually, when you're already a Christian, having those sort of massive changes doesn't really happen. It's actually small steps, becoming more like Jesus over time, and that can be quite a slow daily process as you walk through many years. But actually the culture we live in wants everything and likes everything to be instantaneous and expects you to change straight away. You know, the fact we've got our phones on us all the time means that we can just get everything out at our fingertips. But the discipleship and the walk with Jesus isn't like that. It's about small steps and possibly taking a couple of steps forward and then a few steps back. But ultimately it's that journey walking towards Jesus with our eyes fixed on him as the ultimate goal.
Recently especially, I've struggled with the discipline aspect of kind of staying connected to the Lord. That discipline of staying consistent in prayer and Bible study, and many times I've allowed myself to become so busy and distracted by life. All the challenges and everything around me has been difficult to kind of maintain and be consistent in those things.
I think one of the main difficulties about being a disciple is that of trust and relying on God to lead me in my life. I sometimes wish that I knew what God's plan was for my life and why I'm experiencing particular challenges. But I know that ultimately I just need to show endurance and faith and to trust in God. I think one of the difficulties about being a disciple is showing how you are a Christian in today's world, especially with the pressures at work.
Loneliness. Even when I'm in a crowd, I'm with other people, there are times when I just feel alone because maybe the conversation isn't, not quite right. And I can't really get into the conversation much, and I just feel that's when I think about being set apart. So I can't really join into certain topics and certain conversations.